Is that all right?
Yeah.
All right. Good. Okay, shalom everyone. As always, we'll start something I read from Rabbi Yaakov Israel Lugassi. There's a story that he brings with there was a lady that she was in grave danger at the time of birth. The doctor said they don't see any hope, and the husband comes crying to the Chafetz Chaim. They had the zechut, they had the Chafetz Chaim there, and begged him to pray. Chafetz Chaim said there were other group of rabbis that were there. He says we have to find here someone that has a zechut of Shabbat, that he should volunteer that zechut for this lady. So the husband says, I accept upon myself to go teach the laws of Shabbat, that people should learn everything. Chafetz Chaim says, no. Now we need a zechut that is already there. You can't promise for the future. I need someone, a zechut that is already there from before. So one of the chachamim there said, you know what? One time I helped a store owner to close his store on Shabbat, and is that enough? Chafetz Chaim says yes, that'll definitely help her, and so it was. Within an hour, she gave birth. Baruch Hashem, she was very healthy, and everything went well. It's a big zechut to learn the halachot of Shabbat. That's for sure. All right. I think we finished the halachot of Mehatech. Am I correct? The last halachot that we learned was that, what did we say? What was the last halachot? Remember anyone? I'm a little confused in the notes. So did we say that a cream, right?
You have better memory than me.
We talked about desitin, all right? We talked about desitin,
yeah.
right? And we said, there's a big machloket on desitin, if a person could use it on Shabbat. So everybody over here said, we could dab it on, right? Ravadia says you could go ahead, use a little drop, rub it in until it goes into the skin. Once it's in the skin already, it's not visible, that is allowed. The same thing goes with cream. A person wants to put cream on their face. If you make sure that it gets rubbed into the skin and it doesn't remain, then it's fine.
Can I ask why? Yeah,
That was a big chiddush, no? Moisturizer is even easier because that's more like liquid. Something that's like liquid soap, let's say, not a problem. The whole isur of the whole isur of mematech, we said originally it's from wax, hard wax that you would rub onto a, let's say, barrel had a hole in it, and you want to close that hole, you rub it against that hole. It's a hard wax. You put it on. That's where the isur of mematech comes from, and this here, if it gets absorbed into the skin, it's not a problem at all, and a person could go ahead and do that, no issue. If a person wants to be machmir, for sure, they could machmir and just dab it on there. And we said the baby, let's say, has teething problems, right, and pain. So, what is it called? What gel? Oragel. And you rub Oragel onto the gum, but make sure, again, it gets absorbed. It's a tiny drop, and then you get until it gets absorbed in there, so it calms down and everything. It's fine. Okay.
Well, let's say someone has a bad habit of biting their lips. Are you allowed to rub moisturizer the way you're saying?
For that, there's drops. There's drops, and on the lips.
Yeah.
Moisturizer. First of all, if it's very liquidy, not a problem.
Olive oil?
Olive oil. Yeah.
And then specifically rubbing
Or
it in
eat oily stuff. That's for sure. But if you want to use olive oil to rub it on there, it's not a problem. It's sicha. It's like rubbing oil. What's question on this?
Lotion. All lotion are.
Again, lotions also. If we're talking about the problem of mematech, which is a toda of Mehatech, right? To smooth things out. The whole issue here is to smooth something, right? You want to create a smooth surface. These things don't create a smooth surface. All they do is, it just makes it moist. And it seems everybody is saying that it's not Isur of Mehatech, so therefore a person could use it. We're talking about even more solid creams, not very solid, more like like a cream. And moisturizer are usually much more liquidy, so that's even easier.
What would be a thicker one? Vaseline, would that be considered?
Even Vaseline, there are poskim that bring even Vaseline, like to use a tiny drop of Vaseline, tiny, not to slather it on, oh yeah, then you have a film on your hand. That's definitely no. We're talking about a small amount, and you rub it in until it's absorbed into the skin. That's fine. Okay. And we said deodorant, roll on, not the stick. The stick is a problem because that is like wax. That is a problem. And roll on, that's not a problem. Did we mention toothpaste?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we didn't mention it? Oh, I thought.
Mention it
And
again.
the toothbrush.
Right, we did mention
Don't
it,
mention
right?
that again.
What happened?
Yeah.
I wish I didn't know.
Oh, no, he didn't come to me.
Please say it.
We're
I
telling
literally
everyone
cried on
else.
Shabbat.
Yeah.
Toothbrush, if you know that it's not going to bleed, right? It's not a problem on Shabbat. Toothpaste, also, same thing. It's not a problem. Some people want to say because you squeeze it out of the tube, so there's a certain smoothing action that takes place. There's nothing. There's not even wax. It's not. It's close to liquid. It's not a problem. Rabbi says all the problems that they say toothpaste has, it has not. The only issue is washing the toothbrush after you use it, because if you wash it, you're preparing for chol, right?
Preparing. Okay, wait. So at night you could do
At night
it
you could
because
do
you
it.
do it
Yeah.
for the morning.
At night you could do it because you're going to use it in the morning, but in the morning when you use it, then if you wash it, you're preparing for chol. Now again and
Wait,
again,
how do
if
you
you,
do-
that's only. Sorry, I didn't mean to create an issue. But if that's only and only if you know that it's not that your gum is not going to bleed. Right? If you know that your gum is going to bleed,
No, so solution is put it
Put
on
it
the
in
side of the
the
sink, wash your face heavily over the toothbrush so the toothbrush rinses out.
very good,
Yeah.
very good. That works. Automatic.
Ready for this?
All right.
Or you could just plan on brushing your teeth after you eat another meal.
Yeah, but if you brush your
Then
teeth,
your
close
gums
yourself
will
down
bleed.
after every meal, if you used to brush your teeth.
If a person is used to brushing their teeth after every time they eat, right? Is that the question? So if you know after shacharit, after let's say lunch, you had your cholent, you brush your teeth, wash it, because after Seudah Shilishit, you're gonna again brush your teeth and wash. Then we're good. We said last week, the trick is to brush your teeth right before Shabbat ends, and then an hour later you could wash it. Wash it. I didn't know it's such a big deal not to wash the toothbrush. Wash it after. Big deal. I didn't realize it's such a big deal.
Do Ashkenazim use the toothpaste?
Ashkenazim do not. Most Ashkenazim poskim say not to use toothpaste. Oh my
Okay,
gosh,
fine.
they're
That's
so.
what we're all messing
Okay,
with.
so it's not like we made it up.
No. Ashkenazim poskim they don't even use soap. Ashkenazim poskim, forget it. Okay. They said not to use bar soap on Shabbat.
We don't use
We're allowed to use bar soap?
Stop.
Yes,
No.
What?
I mean, for sure you could be mekel, you could be machmir. I'm sorry, you could be machmir. If you want to use liquid soap, Baruch Hashem these days there's liquid soap. Even on liquid soap, there are some poskim that say you should put water in it so it's really watery. I just said it's not a problem. You could use bar soap, no problem.
That's a relearn.
Wow.
There is a list of problems. Problem nolad, you're creating something new. That foam, the sod, or there is mamareach, that you're smoothing something, and there's a bunch of things. All of that, Rabbi Ovadia originally in Sefer Leviat Chen years ago, he knocked them all off, and he kept knocking them off every sefer that he wrote. Not a problem. Good, Baruch Hashem. Now, as far as food is concerned, there is no Yisrael Memareach by food, right? You want to take a shoko spread and spread it on a piece of bread, or jam or whatever it is. bread, cracker, whatever it is, it's not a problem. Also, like, you have hummus, you want to smooth it out, make it look nice and everything. There is no memariach by food, right? Because who cares? You don't care that it's smooth or it's not smooth. You're gonna eat it. In 2 minutes, everybody's gonna stick their spoon in there and take the hummus or whatever it is. So now that you're smoothing it, it's not considered memareach. It doesn't even come close. So therefore, it is mutar. Okay, that pretty much sums up the melacha of memareach. Good. Let's move on to the next thing. There is the isur of chituch, right? Isur of chituch, one of the melachot, is cutting, right? Anything, whether it's soft surface like cloth, parchment, or anything like that, or it's something hard like wood or metal, and you cut it to a certain measurement that you need, right? Like to cut or to tear, whatever, either way, a piece of cloth in a certain length that you need for a certain purpose, right? From like a bigger piece of cloth, right? Or because you needed to use it as a patch on your kid's pants, right? You take a piece of cloth and you need it for that purpose. Or let's say a carpenter needs a certain measurement of a piece of wood, and he cuts it, right, to that measurement. Or a smith needs a piece of metal because he wants to solder it to whatever it is. He needs that measurement of metal. If he is careful to cut it to a certain measurement, this is the isur of Mehatech. Okay? In the Mishkan, this is one of the 39 melachot. In the Mishkan, they would cut the animal skin because they would make the yeriot, the curtains, right, and the Mishkan covering. So you needed, the Torah gives specific measurements for these things. I don't know. It was either 5 amot by 10 amot. All the measurements that we're gonna have in next week's parasha, and that's parashat Terumah. So the Torah gives specific measurements, and they were makbid, they were careful to cut these things in a special measurement, and that is the melacha of Mehatech. Okay? So Isur of Mehatech is only and only when you need it for a special measurement to use it for something. If a person just wants to tear something, then it goes into the Korea melacha, and the melacha of Korea is only if you are tearing it in order to fix something. Person just wants to tear something up, that's mekalkel, right? That's asur still, don't get me wrong, that's still asur, but that's rabbinic, okay? It's still asur, but it's not asur midrabanan. Now, the isur of Mehatech is only by something which is not a keli, we're going to explain, which is not a vessel, is not a utensil, and is not part of one, right? What you do is you are cutting it in order to help make something out of it. Like I mentioned, there's a piece of cloth, right? This piece of cloth is not a kli, it's not a cloth that's being used. It is for the purpose of taking cloth from it to use this for other purposes. So Mehatech is only when you're not ripping something that is used in order to take that to use it elsewhere. No. For example, there's a pants, right? And a person wants to cut it shorter, right? So there's no Mehatech there. There's no Isur Mehatech. That's something else. It's the Isur of Metaken Mana. You're fixing something. But as far as Mehatech is concerned, Mehatech is only the way we explained it. You have a piece of wood, and you need a certain amount of measurement of wood or metal or cloth, whatnot, and you want that amount. The same thing by, guess what? Aluminum foil, right? The person has a big piece of aluminum foil, wants to rip a piece of it to cover something. If he's makpid, that he rips that aluminum foil to his special measurement, that's Mehatech, right? He says, oh, I only need this much to cover whatever, this bowl. Then we have a problem of Mehatech. Otherwise, it goes into other isurim. makebe patish, like let's say in the case of the pants, that's like makebe patish. You are now fixing this pants is too long, they can't wear it, so you cut the bottom or you tear the bottom off, then it's you are perfecting a vessel, right? Okay, so good. As long as that's clear, so now we are trying to set aside give the parameters of the melacha of Mehatech. That's important. Now, lechatechila, the best thing to do, we discussed this before, that a person should have ready tissues for the restroom from Friday, right? So that we won't have any problems. Now, if a person forgot and they have no access to anything else, all there is in the restroom is a roll of toilet paper. What do we do? So the best thing to do, to cut it with shinui. That means you hold it with your elbows. I don't know if you can reach, but just using your left hand, that's not a shinui, right? Different types of gadgets, like you pull it and you hold it with your elbow and you cut it. That type of a shinui, they could do it. But really, you should know, the halacha is that there is no isur of mehatech by toilet paper. Why? Because the poskim say you don't care about the measurement. It's not like, let me see, it has to be 7 inches. Like, if it's like 6 inches, no, it's not going to be. You don't care how big it is. And then the perforated lines, they're just there to help you cut it easier. Really, because they're not, they have a psychology thing. Let's see how many inches does it have to be there for a person to use? Not at all. They just do it at certain intervals just to make it easier for you to cut it. Remember, like the tip of the thing on the bottle, a wine bottle, we said it has a perforated line. They just want to make it easier for you to cut it. It's not measured cutting at all. The same thing here. It's not measured cutting. So therefore, this is not only Rav Avadia. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says it. Other poskim also say it. It's not like we're not only saying Rav Avadia. So first of all, he doesn't care about the measurement. Second of all, the perforated lines. It's not like so that you're exactly cutting to the measure. Therefore, really, it's mutar. But we're driving everyone crazy because there are some people that they don't understand. They think, so you are allowed to do this thing. So they do it with paper towels as well. There, it's not such a simple thing. Here, the whole heter is so that, because of Kotev Beriyot, it's very unpleasant. The person is in the restroom, and what are you going to do? So it's not kavod, it's disrespect to the human being. Therefore, it's certainly mutar. But we wouldn't go out and announce it in the camera to say that it's completely mutar. So we would say, a person should do it b'shinui. This way you learn your lesson. Next time, put a box of tissues there so you won't get stuck. So that would be the best thing. Just figured I'll let you know about this. Okay. By food, again, in this, there's a lot of little details in the Surah Mehatech, but we're not going to go into them. Let's get to the practical. The practical is, by food though, there is no Isur of Mehatech. What are you going to do? Oh yeah, I need to cut this cake to this measure. Who cares? Yeah, of course, they're just going to eat it, right? Even if you care, even if you want the celery sticks to be only this big, so that they'll fit in the serving dish, and so on and so forth. There is it's not a problem at all. Okay, to cut these things with a knife or whatever it is, however you want to cut it. You could use the scissors even to cut the celery. All these things. These things are not a problem, and therefore a person could cut to a specific measurement the vegetables or the cake or whatnot. Even if you have cows at home and you want to feed the cows and you are careful to give them only these measurements of whatever feed they give them. Even if it's measured, it's not only for humans. I'm saying, is even for them, it's not a problem. However, let's say a person sees that in a certain container there is a hole, and he wants to plug that hole. So he cuts. What would be a good thing to plug that hole with? A radish. What else would be hard enough to be able to carrot? Yeah, carrot. He wants to cut it to a certain measurement. To do that, that's asur because you're metaken keli. You're fixing something on Shabbat. That's tikkun mana. Therefore, that a person has to be careful. That should conclude the melacha of Mehatech. That was, any questions so far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you wanted to cut aluminum foil, you're saying there's an issue because you're cutting for measurement to fit the pan, right? What if you
Right.
cut much larger than the size of the pan?
As far as the Surah of Mehatech, then you don't care about it. When you don't measure it, you just
You
cut.
just rip it.
Then you have the other problem of it's like Korea, you're tearing, right? It's not mekalkel, right? You're not like, just ruining it, destroying it to get to the food. You need this. You need this for something. Then we have an issue of melechet Korea. So therefore a person should not tear aluminum foil. There are some shitot, they say in Korea, but we don't go like that, and it is Korea. It is considered tearing, right?
Plastic wrap would go under the same category.
Plastic wrap. If it's already torn, it's not torn.
It's
You,
not
you want to tear it. Also, I think that also would be the same problem.
And also, like plastic tablecloth from a roll.
And it's perforated, right?
No, it's not. Yeah.
Either perforated or you have to cut it. That's definitely a problem because you are creating a tablecloth. So what do we do when we're stuck? We just you could use it, but don't tear it. Leave the roll on the side. Yeah. I've had this happen. We used to work in this summer camp, and we would tell the waiters, "Listen, guys, make sure you cut enough for the whole Shabbat." And one of them forgot, poor thing, so then we were stuck. How are you going to serve? There's like 40, 50 kids that have to eat. They need a table with a tablecloth. And so we used a couple of these rolls and we just left them there by the side of the table. It was not pleasant because these kids started playing with them and the whole roll got destroyed. But okay, what are you going to do? But that's the only way out over there also, because if you cut it, you are making a tablecloth. That's the problem of tikkun mana.
I've seen people tear it with their hands though.
Like beshinui,
Yeah.
it's, I don't know. There might be a heter, but I don't know. The only heter that we gave was by the toilet paper. That was because of the kavod beriot over here. I don't know. Maybe they know something I don't know. You saw someone reliable do it, or
No, I mean,
I don't know. Good question. I'm trying to think to see if there is any way out of it. I don't see. I don't know. All right. So let's move to Melacha of Kotev. The next Melacha would be writing and erasing. Right. There is a lot. There is a lot of halachot in it. We'll start. Be'ezrat Hashem. What is the Melacha of writing? The Melacha of Kotev. Melacha of Kotev is conveying a message, conveying an intention, right? An idea, right? By writing words, letters, or a picture, right? Write Chinese, whatever it is, right? This is the Melacha of Kotev. Right? In the Mishkan, what they would have to do when they would put up the planks as walls, there were 20 planks on the north, there were 20 planks on the south, and there were 8 planks on the west. Right? I'm sure you all know that. Each plank was 1 amma and a half. That's about, each amma is 1.5 feet. So it's about 2 feet wide, and they were 10 amot high, 15 feet high. Okay? These were the planks in the Mishkan. There was wood, occasional wood, and it was covered with gold. Now, a plank that's, let's say, on the north, number 3, it should always be on the northern side, number 3. And a plank that was, let's say, on the west, in the corner, it should always be in the corner. How would they do this? They would write numbers. It would be Aleph, Aleph. That means they were next to each other. Bet, bet. Right? So the 2 bets will be next to each other. They will always stay where they were. Is that clear? So that's why they needed to write. So again, we learn from there. How many letters does one need to write in order to be chayav? 2, right? So a person who writes 2 letters, right, is chayav from the Torah. Okay? That is, if he wrote it with his right hand, right? Because that's derech ketiva, that is a normal way of writing. Well, one who writes with their left hand, then they would be patur. It's still asur, but they were patur. And if the person is a lefty, same thing. If he writes with the left hand, is chayav. Writes with the right hand, patur. It's still asur. And if a person could write with both hands, he's in trouble. Either way, he's chayav. We'll kill him either way. You know what I'm saying? If you write two letters, like a famous story, the Ibn Ezra, Rabbi Avraham Ibn Ezra. You heard of him? Rabbi Avraham Ibn Ezra. He lived at the same time as the Rambam. He was a genius. So he was by the king of Spain, and the king of Spain was talking to him, and he was writing with both hands, right? He was writing with both hands, and the king got upset at him. He says, "This is very disrespectful that the king is talking to you, and you're like writing your own letters." They looked. He was writing two different letters, and then he told over to the king what exactly, word by word, what the king was telling him. Could you imagine such brain? This is Rabbi Avraham Ibn Ezra. Rabbi Avraham Ibn Ezra was very, very poor. Very poor. He, one time he went to work by a shoemaker. And the shoemaker didn't have anything to do for him. Like one day he says, just come, give me an inventory of how many shoes I have. So he goes, okay, he just sat there. He says, I told you to get it in. He says, I know already how many shoes you have. I told him how many. He says, I don't know. He had counted with one glance all the shoes that he had. This is Rabbi Avraham Ibn Ezra. He wrote a poem. He wrote many poems. One of the poems he wrote, he says, if I make a candle maker, the sun will never set. If I become a shroud tailor, nobody will ever die. You understand what he's saying? Because he had no mazal. He was very poor. So he said, if I start making candles, the sun will never set. Nobody will buy candles. Basically. That's a long poem over there. He had a very hard time to get from Spain. He wanted to go see the Rambam in Egypt. And he travels by foot for such a long journey. Finally makes it there, and the Rambam wasn't there. He was in the king's palace. He waited and waited until the Rambam came late at night. And then the Rambam sees him, he says, throw him in the dungeon. As soon as he sees him, he says, throw him in the dungeon. He goes in the dungeon and he's crying. And the Rambam's servants will come and gather his tears. 3 days he sat there crying. And then afterwards, the Rambam comes to the door. 3 days later, he looks at him. He gives him a hug. And he says, what is this, Rabbi? What are you doing? He says, when I saw you, you had a disease in your eyes. It was fatal. And you needed to cry, and the tears will get that disease out of you. And they bring him the cup underneath. In the bottom of the cup, there was this like poison. It's like something settled in the tears. That's why he told him to go gather those tears, and then he took care of him. He stayed by him for a little while. That's the story. That's how the legend goes. So the continuation of the poem is I go to the minister. That means the Rambam. They say he's not there. I go there, and then they throw me in the dungeon. It's a whole thing that he wrote. It's amazing. Purim is coming up. This Shabbat Shekalim. The week before Purim, they read a poem. It's a long poem. It's called Ni Kamocha Ve'en Kamocha. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, he wrote this poem. It's big. He's the leader of the Sephardic Jewry in Spain. And there's a lot of wisdom in this thing. The first verses is like Ani Yehuda Halevi, and then it goes with Aleph. But he got stuck in some of the letters, and he just let it be. He says, I thought about it, couldn't find the rhyme, because the way it works is the beginning starts with something the message that he wants to say. The end is a pasuk. It's like an incredible poem. So he got stuck, and he says, whoever is gonna figure this out, got to be a genius. I'm going to give my daughter to them. And one day he was away. Rabbi Avraham Ibn Ezra wanted to talk to him. He comes in there. He's not there. His wife says, he's not here. So he walks and he sees this half-finished poem. Finished it off for him, and he walked out. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi comes in. Wow, and amazing. It was incredible. He told his wife, who did this? She says, I don't know. This poor guy, this Avraham Ibn Ezra was here. Maybe he knows. So he calls him and he says, did you do this? He goes, yeah. As if of course, this is like nothing. And I was stuck. This poor guy, I should give my daughter to him. Rabbi Yehuda Levi was very wealthy. I'm not sure exactly what the rest of the story was. So, I hope, anyways, so again, someone who could write with both hands is in trouble because either way he goes on Shabbat, if he decides to write these letters, it's a trouble. Now, if a person, now let's not forget, this 2-letter business, that's only chayav. That means it's completely asur from the Torah. But if he writes 1 letter, that's also asur. A person decides to just write 1 letter, that is asur midirabanan. Right? Now, if there is one of the 24 books, right? We have 24 holy books. Right? We have the 5 Chamisha Chumshei Torah, and then you have Yehoshua, Shoftim, Shemuel, Melachim, Yeshaya, Yechezkel, Terei Asar, Divrei Hayamim, Megillat Esther, Ruth, all the Megillot. All together, these books add up to be 24. These 24 are all written the Ruach HaKodesh. That's where they have a Kedusha. These things, if one of these books that is written on a parchment, a word is missing, a letter is missing, and he writes that letter on Shabbat, he feels bad, it's missing, takes a ink and a feather, or in the olden days, all the Sephardim, nobody used feathers, they used kulmus. That's like, what is this thing? A reed. That's what they used to use for writing, always. It's a kulmus. He takes that and he sticks it in the ink and he writes that 1 letter. I don't know, the mem is missing or something. Chayav. Right? If he perfected, if he completed something, then that's from the Torah. The Isur is from the Torah, even though it's only 1 letter, not 2 letters. Or, better example, a mezuzah. Right? He sees a mezuzah, the last letter on the mezuzah is, anyone?
Good guess.
Good guess. It's a tzaddik, right? Kimeh hashamayim al haaretz. In the mezuzah, you have 2 parashiyot, right? From Shema to Visharecha, and then Vahaya im Shamoa until Kimeh hashamayim al haaretz. Tzaddik sofit, right? The end of tzaddik. If he writes that end of tzaddik, boom, he perfected this mezuzah. Thank you very much, but we'll kill you. That's asur from the Torah. If this person does it, it's a problem. Now, the same thing goes we're dealing with writing. If a person does an embroidery, right, and they write 2 letters using this art, a beautiful art of embroidery, and he gets 2 letters out of this, that's also asur from the Torah. Or carves it on silver or on gold or whatnot, a design. He makes a flower, he creates a flower, he carves out a flower on a kiddush cup, he's got nothing to do Shabbat, he's just sitting there carving out on this kiddush cup, carves out a thing, that's also from the Torah, right? Now, this writing that we're saying that a person would be asur is only if the writing is going to stay.